This is Chris Kell with your Peak Fitness Lower Extremity Assessment Protocols. For our assessment protocols, we're going to start with just exercises in standing position to see how the client moves dynamically. Before I ever get them onto the floor, start looking at their muscles, whatever it may be, we want to see what they can just do in standing positions by giving them minimal coaching, just seeing how they move, and just kind of spotting things that we make notes about so we can look at them later. Alright, so for our first test, we have what is called an overhead squat. Alright, with the overhead squat, I'm going to ask the client to do is stand in front of me, bring their feet about shoulder width apart, hands above their head. Okay, what I'm looking for here is for everything to stay straight. Alright, what I'm going to ask the client to do is get their butt down by their heels while keeping their hands over their head. Alright, so I'm going to ask them just to squat down. I'm going to give them 3 opportunities to do so. Alright, so I'm sitting back on my heels. I'm going to come down as far as I can. And you'll notice that in my case, I'm leaning forward excessively here. Okay, and what we're going to look at with this test, okay, are the position of the knees, the position of the feet. We're asking the client to do these tests barefoot. Position of the hips, just looking at kind of all the, everything should remain symmetrical, and we're just looking at all the points that could deviate. So in this case, I could see something like leaning forward of the upper body, okay, falling forward of the arms, okay, in which case I would just make a note, upper body. Okay, for the lower body, we could see things like the knees coming together, okay, or a weight shift to the side. Whatever it may be, or even the feet collapsing as I come in. All right. In that case, I'm just going to simply make a note, lower body. Okay, and then I'm going to look at that a little bit later on. When we're looking at muscles and that sort of thing. All right. So if the client cannot get the butt down by the heels, what we're going to ask them to do is just elevate their feet on a mat or on something like that. All right. And we're going to see if that cleans it up. All right. So now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to sit back on my heels. Come straight down. It cleans it up a little bit, but I've still got some issues going on. Okay, so I'm going to give the client a 1 in that situation. 1 meaning they can't do it at all. 2 meaning they can do it with some compensation. We just note whatever we see. And then 3 meaning they can do it without compensation. All right. So moving on to our next test. All right, we have the overhead split squat. All right, with the overhead split squat or the overhead lunge, what I'm going to ask the client to do, I'm going to give them a target. I've got a couple carpet squares here, but again, we can use anything from a pillow to a couple blue pads, whatever it may be. I'm going to ask them to line their feet up, hands over the head, and I just want the client to drop their knees straight down to the pad and come back up. Now, in this particular test, what I'm looking for is once again whether or not the arms fall forward. Okay, if the client's for the upper body, all right, so again, if that were an issue, I'd write upper. For the lower body, all right, I'll just kind of turn this way a little bit more so you can see me. I'm looking at the position of the foot, whether or not we're pronating as we come down, whether or not the knee is able to stay in line or is collapsing in, and then as well, whether or not the client is able to keep balance at all. Right, the other issue for the upper body that I'll also add in is whether the client kind of folds forward as they're coming down. Any of those things, we're going to give them a 2. And in the case of the upper body, if they can't do it with their arms or their head, what I'm going to ask them to do is put their hands on their hips and try that again. Okay, if that cleans that up, we know that it's an upper body issue. But in either case, if they fall forward, I'm going to write upper body. I'm going to do that test to just kind of get a check going on. If we see their knees collapsing in, it looks like they're just not able to balance, we're going to write lower body, and we're going to give them a 1 if they can't do it at all. Now, for our last lower body test, okay, we have what is called single leg stance. All right, with this, what I'm going to ask the client to do, just line their feet up with mine here, come onto one leg like this. We're just holding in this position. All right, and what I'm looking for here, 1, whether or not the client can keep balance. Okay, the client should be able to hold here for 10 seconds without coming down. Number 2, I'm looking for whether or not the client is able to stay straight. Again, everything should look kind of symmetrical here. The knee should not be buckling in. The waist should be straight, or whether the waist is shifting to one side, whether the client is kind of leaning back excessively, or I see kind of the knee collapsing in. Okay, in any of those cases, I'm just going to write either upper or lower body, just depending on what happens there. Generally, this is going to be a lower body issue, so if we see any of those things, I would just maybe write lower body. Okay, and with this as well, what I usually follow up on with this, okay, if the client is able to do this successfully or not, is a single leg squat, because what we can see is this is kind of static balance, and we can maybe move to a little more dynamic motion here. Okay, we'll start to see the clients ask them to just perform a single leg squat several times. All right, what you'll see here is whether or not, the knee tracks over the toe, kind of stays symmetrical or kind of starts to collapse in. Okay, if that's the case, okay, we know that we're probably dealing with some weak hips or, again, an issue with the lower body that we need to take a little closer look at. So just make those notes and move on to your lower body breakouts.